Check, check. There it is.
What is up?
Hello, hello.
How is everybody? Hope everybody's doing so good. We are pumped because this is episode 3.
Episode number 3.
And you guys just seriously keep giving us the best feedback. We're really, really glad that y'all love this so much. And like I said last week, it's not that I didn't think we would be good at this or that people would enjoy it. It's just, it's exceeded my expectations. I'll just put it that way. And thank you guys for all the encouragement.
Yes, thank you.
Because you guys encouraging us makes us more excited to keep doing it. So it's late again.
Always.
Late at night. Our girls are in the bed. And
always.
Yeah. And
Could you imagine trying to do this while the girls are awake?
No, you guys wouldn't be able to hear anything. No, there was a full Hannah Montana concert going on about 2 hours ago in here. So we have a fireplace in our living room, and it has a little ledge. So my 4-year-old uses it as a stage, and my 1-year-old also has decided that she wants to use it as a stage.
Yep.
So we get concerts every single day.
Hannah Montana, Taylor Swift.
Yep. Yeah, it's usually Taylor Swift, but
normally.
Tonight was Hannah Montana.
I'm working on the Hardy stuff. I'd love for her to just...
So,
she sings it in the car. She just won't when we get
I've
home.
been trying to get her to listen to the Jonas Brothers with me. So I turned that on in the car.
Action?
Yes,
yeah.
I turned on the Year 3000 and we were listening to it in the car, and she was like, "Mommy, do you like this song?" I was like, "Yeah, I know every word." So I'm just vibing, and as soon as it goes off, I'm hoping that she'll be like, "Let's do it again," like she does every other song that I show her. And she said, "Oh, okay, my turn. Can we go listen to Hannah Montana again?" I was like, "Let's listen to one more Jonas Brothers song." So I played the one that I really like, Play My Music. Mm-hmm. I just want to play my music. Okay. I really thought she'd vibe with that one too. And then she said, "Mommy, we listen to your songs all day." So I had to turn them off. She wasn't a fan.
See, she doesn't do that when I get in the car. Most of the time.
What do you mean?
I get in the car, I play Hardy and stuff like that. And she's like, "Let's do the other one. Do the other Hardy song."
But I listen to Hardy too, so she likes Hardy already. Jonas Brothers was a new introduction, and she was just kind of like,
"You can't do that.
No,
you can't do new stuff."
I just wanted to
You can't introduce new stuff.
Listen, sir, while you're at work, I am at home with her, and all she wants to do is listen to the same 4 songs on repeat. To the point where normally I'm like, "Okay, whatever, sure." And then there are days where I'm like, "No, you get to listen to this song one time. One time."
All right, what we got on the queue today?
That's our snippet of our life. Wes and I have had a lot of people actually ask us this way before we even started doing podcasts. And then I asked people "Hey, if I did a podcast, what are some things you guys want to hear?" And this topic just kept coming up. It's actually how Wes and I maintain friendships with people as a married couple who is busy, who have lives, and also who have kids. Because I know a lot of married couples, especially young married couples, they struggle with community. And I am very aware that the community, the village that we have is rare.
It's next level.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. The people that we go to church with, they're our village. They're just our people. And we have deep-rooted relationships with most of those people.
Yes.
And I talk to people regularly, and I've found out that it is very rare and that we're not the normal, that most people don't have that. And so I have had a lot of people just kind of ask, how do you guys do that? How do you prioritize friendships? How do you keep friendships? How do you stay so close? How do you handle conflict?
We're going to talk about that.
One of the things that Wes and I have definitely learned over the years, because like we've talked about before, Wes and I met at a community. No, how am I at a community college? You did not go to college.
I did go to community college.
You did.
Well, it's a community college.
It was a community college, but that was after Clark was born.
Yeah, and only went for 2 semesters.
Wes was like, "I'm going to go back to school." And
Shout out Mississippi State.
And then Wes went to school, and he was like, "I don't want to go back to school." But anyways, so Wes and I met at a ministry school.
Much different than community college.
Much different. But we all lived in this very, very tiny town, and all of the relationships, there's a bunch of college kids that just lived in this extremely tiny town, on top of each other. Mm-hmm. And we always hung out all the time. Right. And so There's barely anybody married that goes to school there. Almost everyone, I did not do this, but you did, came straight out of high school.
Yep.
So it's just college,
Yep.
but in a smaller,
Small town.
yeah.
There's not a ton to do except
Yeah.
to hang out unless
To
you
hang
want
out.
to drive
Yeah.
45 minutes to
And
an hour
to
somewhere.
hang out in people's dorm rooms or in
Yep.
people's houses or apartments.
downtown at the square.
Or downtown. So you had to like get close with people.
Yep.
Like you had deep rooted conversations. You had like, close knit relationships
Yeah.
that you do life with those people and you get really, really close to them. Much like if you went to a regular college, I'm sure that's how a lot of the same thing. Wes and I didn't go off and move and do that, but we went to, it was to us, it was college.
Ew.
And so those kinds of friendships have their place.
Yep.
But then when you get married, things change because then you get other married friends, or typically you do. A lot of the times those married couples, they gravitate toward each other because you guys are in the same season of life. And like, it's not as easy to hang out with all the single ladies when you or have a husband.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's not as easy to hang out with those kinds of people because sometimes you don't have a ton to relate to. Like, when me and you first got married.
Yeah. And life's just harder and faster now. It feels like.
Yeah. It
is harder, but it feels faster.
Yeah. Well, like when you get married, it's like you guys are paying bills together and you're, trying to work out all this stuff and you're working on your, like we talked about last week, your communication and all of this stuff. But when you're just like a single girl or a single guy, you've got roommates or some of you still live with your parents and your season of life is different. So you don't have a ton in common anymore. So a lot of times married couples gravitate toward each other and those are the people that you hang out with. Nothing wrong with that, but that is just what happens. And so that's kind of what took place with Wes and I. We got married, started hanging out with other married couples, and then we've had kids. And you realize that is also a very different season of life. Like, no, when you've got a kid at home, you cannot drop what you're doing and go do something at 10 o'clock at night.
No, and it sucks.
There's just different things that hinder you from being able to do stuff like that. And so you get into a different vein. Like there were married couples that we hung out with who didn't have kids. And then when we started having kids, we noticed that we just weren't as close to them as before because it's harder and it's not as easy as it was. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean we don't love those people or still want to hang out with those people. You just find yourself in different seasons. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but that's just kind of like where we were. And so with that, Wes and I really had to learn to be okay with the change of pace.
Yep.
Every season, right? Like our lives and how we have friendships now is nowhere near the same way we had friendships when we were in college.
No, and it's nowhere when it was when we first got married.
Yeah.
I mean, before we had Clark, we didn't have a ton of friends at the time because we were still new to this.
Yeah.
To this city and stuff like that. So we didn't have a ton of friends and stuff yet. But I mean, I remember there would be weeks where we would hang out with Blake and Taylor for shout out Blake and Taylor.
Yeah, Blake and Taylor are two of our best friends and they just moved away to Nashville.
Yeah.
And we're still mourning.
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah, we're still mourning them.
But I remember we would hang out with them 4 nights a week for a month straight.
Yep.
They would put Crosby to bed and we would stay there till midnight, 1 a.m.
1 a.m. I can remember we used to do Sunday afternoon family days.
Yep.
And we would all go eat lunch after church on Sundays. And then we would just go to Blake and Taylor's house and we would all just lay around.
Me and Blake would take a nap.
Yep. And Taylor and I would just sit and hang out. Sometimes we would take a nap.
And then they would cook that night.
We would cook dinner that night or we'd order pizza. And then we'd end up being there till, midnight, 1 a.m.
Yep.
And then we'd do it all again. Whatever random day that week, we'd come back over.
Yep.
And that was like an incredible season of our life, but that looks different now. Up until they moved, we would still go over there and hang out. The amount of times that we were able to do that was very far and few between. We lived very much through text messaging and FaceTime calls. And
then randomly one of us would shoot a text and be like, all right, we gotta see each other in person. Yeah, and most of the time it was like that. What are y'all doing tonight? But
they're like, we're making tacos. Come over.
And then we'd go over and stay till midnight. Yeah. But then that would only happen once every month and a half.
Yeah. But that's the thing too, is that like our friendship didn't change.
Yeah.
Just the change of pace.
Correct.
And when you go through these life changes like that, the thing about beautiful friendships is you have to be okay with a change of pace. especially when like we had Clark when she was like 19 months old, we got pregnant again.
Mm-hmm.
So we immediately went from 1 kid to 2 very fast. And so our change of pace was different for even them, because as easy as it used to be for us to jump in and hang out with them, it wasn't as easy anymore because we have 2 little ones, you know? And that's the thing, like that never shook them. That never made them think like, oh, they just don't love us anymore. They don't want to hang out. It's like, you know, life happens to everybody. Don't be so easily offended when like it changes, because life is constantly changing and moving. And like, that's the thing. We talked about it last week with marriage is the same way. Like your people are going to change. Things are going to change. Life's going to happen. And you just have to love deep enough to know that like, no matter what happens, we're good. And I think finding friendships, solid friendships like that are okay with that change of pace are really, really healthy. Yeah. And they're really beautiful to have. And like within all of that, the change of pace, it is still super important that you be intentional.
Knowing that like those types of things, that's a kind of like a constant revolving door.
Yeah.
Because like, again, so we've been living in Knoxville for
almost 7 years.
Almost 7 years. Blake and Taylor were like our first really close friends. Yep. Obviously now we consider them some of our best friends.
They're family to us, basically.
And in that beginning, it was that, okay, we hang out.
Yeah.
You know.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Several days.
And then all of a sudden, like it slows down. We have kids, you know, job situations, but you work through that and you figure out like, no, these are people that are in it for the long haul, like as
game.
Yeah,
these are in-game
as
friends.
It pertains to, you know, friendships and relationships and stuff. And that's kind of how we've been for the past few years. And obviously now they moved to Nashville.
Yeah.
And things are going to have to look a little different. Yeah. And we're going to have to travel, and they're going to have to travel. And like things are going to look different now than they used to. But also we have other very close friends of ours who they started going to another church. Yeah. So we had to pivot on that relationship and figure out, okay, how do we make this work? Like these are people that we care about and we love, and other people that we consider family. How do we make this work? We don't see them every week anymore. They also live an hour away because where they live at. So like we've got to figure this out. And
it's like knowing what is important when it's only convenient.
Correct.
And what is important when it's even inconvenient.
Correct.
And like, you know, we used to go to church with Blake and Taylor too. And our friends Jam and Kayla that we're talking about, like they ended up, you know, he's a drummer at another church now. And like, as inconvenient as it is to not see them every Sunday, it's like that actually teaches me a little bit about me, because I immediately there's a question within me when those things happen, not just me like personally, but like in us in general. There's a question that comes up in those kind of situations. Like, okay, am I a convenient friend or am I a consistent friend?
Correct.
And like, that'll tell you a lot about who you are as a friend and what kind of friend you're going to be, because you can decide like, oh, well, that was just a friendship for convenience, or no, I'm a consistent friend. The convenience made it easier. Yeah. But I can be consistent with these relationships. Yeah. And like one of the things that we're very intentional, like we have to be intentional about, and Wes and I are not the best. I am a terrible person about reaching out first, but it's not because we don't love people. It's just like genuinely, like I genuinely am just a bad person about, and I think too, I love social media, and I know social media has like a really bad rap, and like people have negatives towards it, and there definitely are negatives to social media. And I think you have to be very careful with what you let in, what you compare yourself to. But I genuinely love getting on social media and just seeing my friends' lives. Yeah. Like getting on there and seeing their kids. And like sometimes I won't reach out to people because I'm like, well, I just saw that they were at the zoo last week. That's also why I post so much, because I know people love to see like what's going on in our lives. And so because of that, I don't reach out, which isn't a great quality. I need to be better about it. But I say that to say, I am somebody that knows that I'm not great about it. So it takes a lot in me, and I have to go above and beyond to be super intentional about staying connected in my relationships.
Correct.
And like, so we have a friend group here. There's 6 of us. So it's me and Wes, another couple of our very, 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 very close friends, Joe and Katie.
Shout out.
And then our friends, Jamie and Kayla. The 6 of us are all extremely close. We have a group text. We talk all the time. And obviously, Jamie and Kayla don't go to our church anymore. So it's just not been as easy to like plan things and see them as often. And so every single month.
And we all have kids.
Yeah, we all have kids. Jamie and Kayla have 3 kids. Joe and Katie have 3 kids. We have 2 kids. Okay. So you can imagine the pure chaos that it is when we all get together.
Yep.
Because every single one of those children is under the age of 9. There's a 4-month-old to a 9-year-old, and then all of the rest squeezed in between. And all of those kids are best friends too, which is amazing. But we have to be so intentional about like the 6 of us making sure that we hang out. That literally Katie, which she's our little administration queen.
Yeah, she's the
administration queen. She stays on
she's
everything.
on top of it.
Yeah.
She's on top of it.
She loves spreadsheets, and she's just like, she's that kind of person. And so she'll text us, hey, we're planning our monthly hangout. Let's get it on the books. How's this day, or this
Yep.
day? Everyone pick. And we get something put on the calendar. We plan it, and we secure this is when we're hanging out. And that way you don't go, because it's so easy as friends and as couples be like, hey, let's get together let's get together and hang out. And the next thing you know, it's like 3 years later and you're like, we should still get coffee sometime. Like,
we used to be so close. What happened? Life.
Well,
No.
yeah.
You have to be intentional about it. You have to be able to, you have to be willing to being able to just be like, hey, we have to just plan this.
Yeah.
It's not like it used to be where we could just text and be like, hey, what are you doing? Or, you're in college or in high school and everything was just kind of like go with the flow and everybody was hanging out. And
especially when your kids get older. Correct. Like our friends' kids now, like we haven't done this with Clark yet because she just turned 4, but like Jamie and Kayla's little boy, he plays baseball.
Yep.
We are all just navigating like all the things we've got going on. You have shows.
Yep.
Like it's not as easy. And so it is okay to the change of pace of recognizing these friendships are important to us. So let's put it on the calendar. And that's something else that I've noticed is, and I tell people this all the time when obviously I'm a pastor. When I pastor people or I pastor girls and they were like, hey, can we get coffee? Hey, I want to talk to you about something. I'm so specific about being like, give me a date. Let's plan it right now. Because all day I could be like, let's grab dinner. Yeah, let's grab coffee. And then you'd be like, okay. And I'm going to tell you right now, I will walk away from that and never think about it again. Not because I don't care about you, but because I've got 2 kids at home and my focus.
I do that with you.
Literally.
You'll be like, let's do this. And I'll be like, okay. And then we don't say when we're going to do it. I will walk away from that conversation and never think about it again.
Yep.
Because that's just the way my brain works. And obviously there's a lot of people that are like that. So like you have to be intentional about the way you go about relationships, the way that you think about things with this. And if you want these relationships like we're talking about, and I think that obviously, like you said at the beginning, like we are blessed with people in our lives that they are family. Like and again, like I know we don't live close to family. Like your sister lives here. Yeah. That's the closest family member we have that lives to us.
But like my mom doesn't live here. Your parents don't live here. So like this is our friendships are our family.
Yes.
Yeah. They're our village.
These are our people that we honestly like, and I'm going to say this and I think all of them would say this. I expect them to be in our lives. I expect them to help us with our kids. Yeah. I think they expect the same thing.
I had to get my hair done not long ago, and I called up Katie and was like, please watch my children. I need my hair did. Or like, Clark has spent the night at Jamie and Kayla's house before because she's so close with their kids. And that is so important for us because like, who are we going to call on? Correct. When life happens, you're going to need people. And the thing about it is I do want this to get spiritual, but because I love Jesus and I want to talk about him. But like Jesus is so pro people. He was so for relationships. Like he had his 12 disciples and the people that he, poured into and loved on and hung out with. But then he also had his 3, like he had close-knit relationships, and scripture is very like telling when it talks about community and it talks about being in relationship, and it says, like confess your sins to one another so that you may be healed. Like it is important for us. It was so important that God like created us to heal each other. That's how much he cared about relationships and community, is that like he knew that we would heal each other. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when we pray and ask God for healing in situations, sometimes his answer to you is, well, have you been intentional with your relationships? And that's something I have to ask myself when I'm feeling alone or I'm feeling insecure or I find myself comparing myself to other people, or I think nobody likes me. Nobody actually wants to be my friend. Everybody's mad at me. Nobody cares what I have to say. The answer to all of those things is within my relationships.
Yep. That goes back to the what I said about like God being like seeing God in relationships.
Yep.
Like that's what this whole thing is about.
Yep.
That's how we show God's love.
Yep.
That's how God shows us
That's
his
where we
love.
find him.
That's where we find God at, is in relationships, because these are his people.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yep.
Like loving each other and loving in these relationships. That's how we see God. That's how we show God. That's how we experience God. Like through those relationships is how sometimes the biggest revelations can come out of that. Like just being in relationship with other people who are like-minded. And when I say like-minded, I don't mean like everything has to line up. Like you have to be the same person, or you have to be. When I say like-minded, I just mean these don't have to be people that agree with you on everything. Like Blake and Jam and Joe, like I don't agree with them on everything. But at the same time, those are my people.
I don't agree with you, and we're married.
Oh God. But like those are my people.
Yeah.
I would die for them.
Yeah.
I would do anything for them. I saw a podcast that was
I'm just going to stop right here, because it is not often that you get a man who talks about how much he loves his guy friends. And like, that is seriously so beautiful to me. I get emotional about it because like Wes, literally anytime we're with our friends, Wes is the first one in the group to be like, I love y'all. I love you. And I just think that's beautiful. And I think you should not settle for anything less than friends who won't stop telling you how much they love you and who talk about you in this way. So I just needed to throw that in there because this is not normal, but it should be. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I saw another, I think it was a podcast, but they were talking about like you have your 6 p.m. friends and then you have your 3 a.m. friends.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like your 6 p.m. friends are the ones that you call, like you have to call before 6.
Yeah. Your 3 a.m. one's the one who's going to be bury a body. Oh, yeah. Oh, like, I already know.
Who are the friends that you're going to call at 3 a.m. when stuff's going down?
Yeah.
Who are you calling?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I already know. Like I know exactly who I'd be calling.
I'm that friend.
I'd be like, hey,
I am that friend.
I have a situation. I done got myself in a mess. I already know who I'm calling, who would be like, girl, I'll be right there. And Wes and I are kind of being silly and we're like talking about like, the specific friendships that we have. But in that, the way we created that because of something that we did first.
I have to say something real quick.
What?
Just wait till we get these people on this podcast with us.
It's going to get wild.
We've already talked about it with them and all that stuff. Like, could you imagine?
No, y'all would see a whole different side of us. I don't allow Wes and Joe to sit by each other at church.
Which is a shame.
Because they act a fool. I say all that to say that the way that we got here and to where we are with these friendships, we had to start from the beginning, which is maybe you aren't in a season where you have all these amazing friends you're learning how to steward. Maybe you don't know where to even start or how to get in those relationships. And Wes and I are super passionate about this. And like the last 3 times I've preached at church, I've preached on community.
Yep. Are you preaching
I'm
on
not
it again?
preaching on
Okay.
community next time I preach. No, don't worry. I am so passionate about community because I have never felt so alive than to know that I am safe within a group of people. And I can remember when my dad passed away in 2020, I was very angry. We show up to I don't think it was the funeral. It was what's the thing before the
Visitation.
funeral? The visitation. It was the thing with the open casket, which freaked me out in general because I'm like, I don't want to see this. Like, this is not what I want to look at. So we go into the visitation and I'm furious. I have a lot of anger. I'm very mad at God. I do not understand this. If you don't know, I will talk about this on the next podcast.
There's a whole episode on it.
Very brief. I lost my dad to a massive heart attack in 2020. It was very abrupt. I saw him 3 days prior. He woke up with chest pain. They took him to the hospital. He coded. He was in the hospital all day. Died that night. It was very abrupt, very out of nowhere. None of us saw it coming. So I had not had time to process anything. All I know is I remember the night in the hospital. We're so sorry. Your dad didn't make it. My world caved in. Like I said, I'm angry. It's very abrupt. We get to the visitation and I refuse. So my mom and my aunt and Pastor Casey Doss, who is the one that brought us to Knoxville, he was there.
Yep.
And he stood up at the front with my mom and my aunt the entire night, hugging people, shaking people's hands, just like really there for my mom. And we could do a whole episode on how amazing Pastor Casey was through that season of my life.
Get him on here.
No, literally, we're going to have to. I refuse to go up there and hold people, like to shake people's hands. And
we sat in the back.
Yeah, like
in the very back
Wes
of the
was
room
like,
next
"Do you
to the
want to
sound
go
booth."
up there?" Visitations, people line up, and hundreds of people came through. I've never seen a visitation that big.
When my aunt passed away when I was in high school.
Yeah,
that's the only other time I've seen.
Yeah, a visitation like that. It was insane.
It was nuts.
And so my mom just hugged every single person. And I literally was like, I'm not going up there. I was like, I don't care. I was mad. And everyone just kind of knew to like give me space. And I just looked Wes dead in the face. I was like, I'm not going up there. I'm not standing up there. And I went and sat in the very back of the sanctuary. It was at my parents' church, big church. And I went and sat in the very back of the sanctuary. And I sat there with my arms crossed, angry. And I looked to my right where the doors were, and a flood of people from Knoxville walked in. I'm going to freaking cry talking about this. Like a flood of people from Knoxville came in a group. And it was like my worship team, their spouses. Cole, who is now the pastor of our church, who was then the youth pastor, and his wife were there. I can't even explain to you how many people from Knoxville walked in, and they immediately saw where I was sitting, and not a single one of them got in line. They just immediately sat down in the back with me, and we all sat back there the entire visitation and laughed.
Yep.
And like
cracking jokes
and making laugh, like making light of like stuff that happened in the hospital all day, or like some of the things, just memories of my dad that they shared. Some of them met my dad once, and they just wanted to hear stories about him. And that was, I think, the first time that I really realized what a community is.
Yep.
So before I left, like I told you, I wouldn't go up to the front. But before they were about to close the casket, they asked me one last time if I just wanted to say bye to my dad. And this is like so much more emotional than I thought this podcast episode was going to be. But they just said, we're about to close the casket one last time. Do you just want to come up and say it? And I looked at Wes and I said, I think I just need to try. So I walk up, I have this moment with my dad, and I'm just sobbing. I'm weeping at the casket. I'm just having this moment. And I turn around, and every single one of those friends had flooded behind me and sat.
And at this point, like the place is emptying out.
Yeah, nobody else had stayed.
The visitation's over at this point. There's nobody else really in the room. And again, it seats 300, 400 people.
People in there.
So like it's a bigger auditorium in there. There's nobody in there except who we left our friends in the back of the sanctuary. We go up to the front and then we turn around and they're on the front row.
They're all in the front few rows just waiting on me to have this moment with my dad. And they all just, it's going to say weird thing out loud, but they watched me have this moment with my dad. Not in a creepy way.
No.
But they were just there. And I remember leaving that visitation thinking, this is a community. This is a village. What would I do without these people? And ever since then, it has just continued to grow. And like some of those people I don't really talk to as much anymore. Some of them have moved away. And like all of that's fine. I still connect with you on social media. I just feel like that is what I feel like everybody should have. And I think
100%.
You have to guard that with your life.
Yep.
You don't let petty stuff come in. You don't let stupid stuff come in. You love people well. You forgive. Stop getting offended. Stop
you have
being
conflict.
Yes. Stop playing the victim.
Yep.
Because it is just as much your responsibility to build relationships as it is for other people to build them with you.
That's good.
And
that's good.
Because I played the victim for too long in my life.
Yeah.
And all it did was push people away. And the biggest thing I did for myself was deciding to stop being a victim, to stop saying, well, I don't have any friends. Nobody wants to hang out with me. The best thing I ever did for me was marrying you, who said, get up, we're going.
There it is. I was waiting for you to say it or I was going to.
I could see the look in your eyes. You were like, give me a shout out, praise me.
If you weren't going to say it, I was.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, that's the best thing that I did was decide to stop being that girl.
Yep.
I get sad because I see so many people in that season, but they aren't. Okay, you may go to church on Sunday, but are you going to church? Are you actively involved in church? Are you going to a group? Are you serving on a team? Are you staying after and talking to people and hanging out?
Are you showing up at, if church starts at 10:30, are you showing up at 10:25 and leaving at 12:15 or whatever, like as soon as church is over? Or are you showing up 15, 20, 30 minutes early?
And are you being consistent? Or are you only showing up once a month? Or
are you staying, 10, 15 minutes after? Are you asking people, hey, what are y'all doing for lunch? Do y'all want to go get lunch?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, are you just going to church?
How badly do you want it? How badly do you want a community?
Correct. When we are involved at a church. Emily's on staff again, but like we're not saying like, we think you should, but I'm not telling you like you have to get involved and be on a team and like all this stuff. That stuff helps.
Yeah. That's one of those are some of the avenues that helps you get into close relationships.
Yeah, that stuff helps because you're getting into things, whether it be childcare or media or security or the host team, worship team, whatever it is, you're getting into those things with other people who are
like-minded.
Yeah, they
want to be. If you're working in kids care because you love kids, you're going to meet other people in there who also love kids.
Exactly. So like, obviously that stuff helps. But when we say like get involved at church, we're talking this aspect of relationships, we're talking about showing up 20 minutes early. Stay 10 to 15 minutes late. Pick one community group or small group or whatever y'all call it at your church. Pick one group, and you don't have to go every week. You don't have to.
No.
Again, that helps.
It helps.
But you don't have to.
Honestly, what you put in is what you're going to get out.
But show up.
Yep.
Show up twice a month.
I cannot stress enough how important it is to show up, not just to church. Show up to things. That's how you're going to get community. If there's a kid that's having a birthday party and they invited your kid, show up. You're going to meet other moms. There's an event happening. If your church is doing trunk or treat, hey, show up. You're going to build some relationships.
Yes.
Like
trunk or treats are great.
Trunk or treats are great.
They're a good
They're
time.
really fun. Wes and I always have a really good time dressing up and decorating our cars. We love that.
I love dressing up. It's fun.
I know, same. But
Get involved.
get involved. I'm not just in church community.
Yeah.
I teach a dance fitness class.
Yep.
I am in love with that community of girls.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't explain to you enough. I go to the gym once a week and teach this class. I go to the gym 6 days a week. I teach a class,
you teach a class
at the gym.
At the
At
gym.
the gym once a week. But I go to the gym once a week and teach a class. And I am building the most beautiful relationships with women who love fitness, who love dance, who are trying to find themselves again, who are in postpartum, who are trying to love their body again, who have been insecure for a long time and they just want to feel sexy again. You name it. I'm in this community. For a long time, I was in book club. I was connected to a book club from a few girls who did go to our church, but
it wasn't
that
a
book club is not
thing.
a church thing.
Correct.
It is totally different.
And now it's so big.
It's huge
Like
now.
there are so many people that don't go to our church that go to that now. So
but now some of those girls that found out about book club on Facebook, they now come to our church.
Correct.
Because they needed a more, even deeper community.
Yeah, but that community aspect of like meeting people outside of the church too.
Yes, meeting people outside of church. Find something. Put yourself out there. Find people. Go to your local gym. Go to a gym class. Yep. Find a book club. Find an online book club. You can, even if you're not involved physically, start a book club and do FaceTime calls.
Yeah.
Like your community doesn't have to be spending money. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be overexerting yourself. It should be restful and peaceful and easy to just have relationships.
Agreed. What you said, it should be restful. It should be easy.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's lazy.
No, exactly.
That doesn't mean that you, again, like we're going back, it's like you have to fight for this. If you want a relationship of people that you consider family, of people that you want in your corner, that you can call on when things are hard or when things are great.
Yep.
Like it takes a lot of work.
You have to steward it.
But at the same time, with it being work, with it being hard work and putting in time and effort into it, there is a rest to it. There is a peace that comes over you that have obviously, like, I've had very good friends in my life. You've had very good friends in your life. Nothing to take away from those friends, and we're still close with some of those people, and we still talk to some of those people. But now, seeing how the relationships have formed over the past 7 years since we moved to Knoxville, like it's different.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, and you mentioned this a second ago, and I put a pin in it in here in my brain, and I was going to come back to it. Pop. Now here we are. I'm pulling the pin back out. Having hard conversations is involved in the work.
Yes.
And
you talk about this. Go ahead, talk about hard conversations.
I'm going to throw up because I'm an Enneagram 9 and we hate conflict.
She hates hard conversations. I'm an 8. I hate hard conversations. Hard conversations?
Oh, yeah. Well,
I hate it. I'm an 8, but like, obviously I'm an 8 wing 9. So I think that wing 9, I don't have a problem saying what's on my mind.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem telling you if I think something's stupid. But at the same
time, you have a problem with like breaking it down and like trying to get to the bottom line?
I'm not great with words.
That's true.
And y'all will find that out on this podcast.
The thing about you though is like when you do have something to say, what is the word?
You asking the guy that just said he's not good with words.
When
so
you
think of a word.
When you do have something to say, it's very good. Let's just put it that way. I'll be elementary with my language.
I hope so. But I don't love hard conversations. I don't have a problem with saying what's on my mind or saying what I think or saying if I think something's dumb or if it's whatever. I'm also not great with words, so that is hard sometimes, like communicating what I'm feeling sometimes. But also, that wing 9, I don't like hurting people.
Yeah.
So like sometimes those hard conversations is tough because I don't want to hurt somebody.
Right. Yeah.
I don't.
Story of my life.
It's easier. Obviously, it's a little bit easier with friends that are like our friends that are really close with us. That's a little bit easier to kind of say what I think because I know that they're not going to get just PO'd at me.
Because they know you.
Yeah, they know me. They know my heart. I can talk to them and it not be so hard. Same thing with you. Obviously, it's really easy with you because you can't lead me. So I just
insert tears.
Say whatever comes to my head.
Insert tears in my sensitive soul.
But still, even with friendships like this, sometimes it is hard to do. But it is necessary, and it is something that has to be done. I'm a guy, so it's not as prominent, I don't think, with guys. Obviously it can come up, but guys are kind of a little more relaxed and laid back, and if you say something or I say something, it's kind of like
y'all stress me out. The way you text stresses me out, the way y'all interact stresses me out because everyone's so just like meh, and I'm like you
or we just say random crap, and
like,
Emily's like, you can't say that. I'm like, why?
Especially with no exclamation mark. Don't be sarcastic in
or
a text
laughy
with
face
no
or
with
an
no
LOL
emoji
or anything.
Like, I'm stressed. I'm like, you stop, please. I have hives. I'm like reading over his shoulder and I'm like, don't say that. Don't say it like that. Say it like this.
But
anyway,
from your perspective on that though,
I think, and I won't air out dirty laundry on here.
No.
Because don't even ask for tea. Don't be trying to look up. None of your business. We have as of late, had to have very hard conversations with some friends.
There are still things that have happened over the past 7 years that we've had to talk about with people.
Yeah.
Like that, not to just say like things that have only recently got hard.
No.
Over the past 7 years, this is not something that's like, oh, well, just recently we've had to have hard conversations.
I think for me, I have been better as of recent.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I was going. That's where I was leaning with that is I have never been good at that.
Yeah, but I just want to let everybody know, like, that's not just like a thing that happens over a 7-year period and then all of a sudden, like, things all of a sudden get hard. No, like, things have gotten hard from the beginning.
Yeah. Things are hard. When you are in relationship, people require hard conversations.
Yes.
There's always going to be conflict because we are people. We are human.
Correct.
We mess up. We do dumb things.
Correct.
We say dumb things. We hurt people, not intentionally, but it is inevitable. You are the love of my life. You hurt my feelings all the time.
What?
I know you could never imagine.
Would never.
You would hurt my feelings, but you're the love of my life and you do that. So you can only imagine what you would do to somebody who's not the love of your life that you're intimate with. Like, you're going to say things. That's what we do. It's human nature. It's not on purpose. Some people do things on purpose, and I will fight you. Actually, I will not because I'm an Enneagram 9. Wes will fight you. I'll just tell you that it hurts my feelings.
I will call Katie and she will fight you.
Our friend Katie will fight you. Yes, our friend Katie will fight you. I have never been good with conflict.
Yep.
Wes and I have talked about this. I have always been the kind of friend. I don't know if this is the way that I grew up. I feel like my family wasn't amazing at conflict either.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that.
Yeah. Like my family's just not great. I came from a house full of girls and then my dad. Okay. Conflict. We are calling each other names and then we'll come out and be like, you want somebody's Skittles? Like, that's just the way we did things. But we're not good with healthy conflict. And so for me, having friends growing up, it was like, well, if they did something I didn't like, I'll just find a new friend, And God, that's so toxic. But that is literally how my brain worked. It was like, well, if they're going to do that, well, I'll just find a new friend.
Gone.
Yeah. I mean, that was just, and I mean, not that I would I'm not the girl that unfollows people on social media. I'm not the girl that blocks people. I'm not that girl. So I would just be like, okay, well, I'll just nicely pull away. We can be friends from a distance and I'll still be nice and lovely to you, but I'll invest in a different friendship.
Yeah.
And that worked not well for me for all of my life. But it was a cycle I couldn't get out of. And then when Wes and I got married, he has I said this last time, Wes loves very hard. And when he finds his people, he hooks. He like sinks his teeth in.
You ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, you ain't leaving. When Wes hooks his teeth into you, like, you're friends.
Yep.
So pack a bag. Because you ain't
Coming
going.
with you.
Yeah, you ain't going anywhere. But I struggled with that because the smallest thing that made me insecure in a friendship or made me question our friendship or relationship, I'd be like, oh, I just don't think I can be close to them anymore. And Wes would be like, well, you're going to have to get over it because we are going to be close with them and we are going to love them. And as angry as it made me in the moment, it was so good for me to have somebody that was like, no, you're not doing this anymore. You're not doing this anymore. You're not throwing relationships away because of things like this. You're going to sit down. You're going to talk to them. And that feels like a knife in the jugular because I'm like, you don't understand. I cannot tell people how I feel or tell them that they upset me. Number one, like you said earlier, I am terrified of upsetting people. And I'm terrified of hurting people's feelings. And I always fear that if I tell someone what they did, they're going to feel bad about themselves. And I don't want them to feel that way. So I'd rather just suppress how I feel and just go find a new relationship to invest into. Yeah. But also, I find it very hard to trust people because I have been hurt in a lot of friendships. So I fear that if I tell you, hey, this upset me, you'll use it against me.
Yeah.
So that made me also retract. And then also, I'm also not amazing with words when it comes to sharing how I feel. And I find it hard to like frame what I'm trying to say about how I feel. Cause like even sometimes with you, I'll be trying to tell you what I feel about something and you'll be like, okay, but then you're saying this. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. You're like, that's exactly what you're saying. And I'm like, well, hold on, rewind. That's not what I'm trying to say.
At least you can form a sentence.
And so anyways, over the last few years, it's something I've really, really, really been working on. And through a lot of church hurt, through losing friendships, through having people run my name through the mud and rumors being spread about me. Like I went into a shell for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then I realized what good is it doing for me to be in a shell? And I had some really hard conversations with a super, super, super close friend of mine. We sat down at coffee a couple of times and I just shared my heart of like, this hurt my feelings. Yep. And I don't know what to do. And I remember the safety in that. Like we're crazy. Okay. She's an Enneagram 4, my girl, Hannah. And
Hannah, I love you. I love you too. You're 9 and I love you too. Y'all cry way too much.
Hannah and I just sit and cry together.
Both of you.
And so like I'd be like, listen, when you said this, it hurt my feelings. And then she'd start crying. And then she's like, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. And
I mean, like, that was all love.
And I'm like, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings.
I'm not a crier, so.
But like the safety in that, it actually made me feel really good about like having a friendship that I could be honest with. And then as of late, like there have had to been hard conversations that Wes and I have had to have with other friends where we've had to say like, this really hurt us. This really upset us. And I struggled for a long time. There were several months I went without communicating how I felt with certain friendships in Wes. And I would just cry at home. And Wes would be like, you've got to talk to him. You've got to just tell him how you feel. And my immediate...
Just text him. Just call him.
My immediate red flag of like, what if they use it against me?
Yep.
And so what if they do? And I've talked about this to other people too, but like, if there is ever a situation where you put yourself out there and put yourself in a line of fire to say, this really hurt me, and they turn it and use it against you, that is not a friend you want anyways.
Correct.
You did the right thing by sharing your heart and getting it off your chest and trying to mend the friendship. If they didn't want to mend it and they want to use it against you and think negatively of you for being honest with how you feel, those aren't friendships you need anyways.
Correct.
And I'm learning that in the last year. It's been something I've really been like learning and just settling into and learning to become okay with and finding the safety of and finding the people in my life that are safe enough to say, hey, this really hurt me. This really upset me. And them being like, I am sorry. Let's fix it. And I love this scripture. I talk about it all the time. And I think Pastor Cole, when did he call me out for having that scripture highlighted? He used my Bible app for something one time. He said, "Can I borrow your Bible app?" And he saw that in my Bible app, I had the verse highlighted, "If at all possible, be at peace with all people." And he laughed. He's like, "I see you have this verse highlighted." I said, "It's my motto." It's my motto.
I need to get it tattooed.
Yeah. But it's because when I first used to read that verse when I was younger, I thought it just meant like get along with people.
Yeah.
Don't be someone that causes conflict.
Yeah.
And that is a piece of that in there. But the scripture actually reads, "If at all possible, be at peace with all people." And what that translates into is it may not be always possible. And I think that's something Jesus is trying to teach us is like, not everybody you're going to be able to get along with and be besties with.
Correct.
There are going to be some people, Jesus couldn't even get along with everybody. They put him on a cross and hung him. Like even Jesus himself was not loved and able to be at peace with all people.
Correct.
And I think as long as you are striving to be at peace with all people and do what you can, and if you're trying to make amends, you're trying to fix things, you're seeking out, like, let's talk about this, let's have this conversation. What they do with it is their business. And that does not mean you're going to be best friends with everybody.
No.
You will not be best friends with everyone.
No.
You can have close friendships. You can have acquaintances. You can have people that you just love. Does not mean you're going to be best friends with everybody, nor should you be best friends with everybody.
God, no.
Because you should not be sharing certain pieces of yourself and your heart with everyone.
Correct.
You shouldn't.
You can't.
No.
It's not possible.
And I mean, this is going to sound really provocative, but that's a prostitute.
Oh.
That's what prostitutes do.
That's good.
They just share pieces of themselves with everybody when it's not meant for everybody.
Don't be a prostitute, friend.
Don't. Because you're not supposed to be. You're not supposed to be. No. And Jesus only invited Peter, James, and John up to the mountain for a reason.
Preach.
And it doesn't mean you exclude people for the sake of excluding people. And it doesn't mean you treat people poorly. And it doesn't mean that you act like you're better than people.
No.
But everybody's not supposed to be your best friend. And I think when you find those people that you love and you connect with, you love all people. You be at peace with all people. You have relationships with people. But you don't let everybody in.
Correct.
That's also what keeps you safe in prioritizing and fostering relationships. Yeah. There's my nugget.
There's my nugget.
We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Is there anything else you want to say on relationships?
Get out there. Meet people. Love people. Love hard. Find those people.
Yeah.
Find who you connect with. Find who you can do life with.
Yep.
And just jump head first in. And obviously don't be like weird and creepy and clingy, but like jump in.
And don't be jealous and insecure.
But yeah, jump in, love hard.
Yeah.
And just go for it.
The other thing I will say is in being parents, it is good for your kids to see you have healthy friendships. Yes. It is not good for your kids to see mom and dad didn't have people and mom and dad isolated and mom and dad were a victim. Because what you do is you raise kids to isolate and be the victim.
Correct.
And not have healthy relationships and not know how to do healthy conflict. And
you're also giving them a space. Because obviously in our situation, like all of our close friends have several kids.
Yep.
One of them is about to have their second kid. So it's like, number one, you're giving them a space to make friends, to learn how to interact with other kids. Mm-hmm. In our case, learning how to interact with kids that are older than them and kind of, number one, it helped her with like her development. Like she's 4, but she acts like she's 10. Yeah. So like that helps.
Send help.
Yeah.
Send help.
But like that helps with that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And her just development
over time. Well, she has the joy that come from our kids all being together.
Yeah.
Like all of our friends, we have several, not even just those few friends we've mentioned tonight, but we have lots of friends that we hang out with that go to our church and that our kids just love hanging out with, man. Like we were just this last week, we were at one of our friends at church. We went over to her house just for a birthday dinner, and she's like, I'm going to blow up that bouncy house outside and let the kids jump on it. And when I say for hours, I don't know, 8, 9 of our kids were out there just having a blast, man. Didn't want to leave, kicking and screaming not to go.
Yep.
And like, is that a pain in the butt? Yes. But is that like the best thing in the world? Like, it is good. It is good for them.
Correct.
And when you isolate and you don't give your kids that avenue, you're not doing them any favors either. It's good for you. It's good for your marriage. Oh my God, is it good for our marriage for us to have close relationships? Yeah. I mean, I laugh, like we say that in a funny way, but I'm serious too. Like, it has been so good for our marriage for us to sit with other married couples and talk about marriage. Like, the fact that I can relate to other girls about things they get annoyed that their husband's with. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not the only girl in the world that gets annoyed about that. Or thank God we're not the only ones that fight about that. Or thank goodness that we're not the only ones in a rough season right now. You know, like, to have friends who encourage.
That fight was dumb. You should have heard this fight we had.
Yeah, I mean, but in all seriousness, like, it makes it like, man, it's just life-giving. Yep. And to see your spouse love other people well besides you. Yep. I'm not insecure about how well Wes loves my girlfriends. Yeah. Like, you would do anything for Katie, Kayla, Hannah, Taylor.
Yep.
I mean, I could just keep going down the names of my girlfriends list that Wes would kill for those girls. And like, if anybody did anything to them, Wes would be one of the first ones ready to, have their back. Like, it's good for my spouse to love other people well. Yeah. And like, I didn't have brothers, so your friends are like brothers to me. Like, I cherish those friendships with Joe and Jam and Blake, and I could just keep going, but they're special to me and they bring a lot of value to my life, and I'm not insecure about that. And I think it's healthy for you to be with someone who loves other people well too, because that goes to show you that they do just love all people.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, like, to see your spouse love people well, like, it's, it's kind of sexy.
Oh, yeah. Is it sexy?
It is.
Yeah. How you doing?
It is very sexy. Like, it makes you feel like they don't just love you and they isolate you, but like, they just bring out the best in you and everyone. And I don't know, it's good.
Yeah.
Yep. It's good for you to have guy time. Mm-hmm. It's good for me to have girl time. It's good to relate. It's good to be in relationship.
It's good for us.
Yeah.
To kind of get away and be with other people and be with friends. And
yeah, it's good to have space and what's really important is being in relationship with people who only elevate your marriage.
Correct.
And they will only push you to be closer and to be better. And when things are rough, all they will do is to fight for you and your marriage and your family.
Correct.
And I think it matters too who you're in relationship with. People who have a toxic view of men maybe shouldn't be your best friends if you're trying to have a loving marriage,
Probably not.
Those are just some little snippets. But anyways, that's all. We just wanted to kind of talk to you guys a little bit about, where we feel like it is good to have healthy friendships. And so we hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Yes.
So like,
comment,
and subscribe.
Yes.
To our YouTube.
Leave a comment.
Leave us a review and follow us. So if you go to Apple or Spotify, make sure you follow our page. Don't just listen to it.
Yes.
Also, please let us know if you're listening. We see it rack up every day, but I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
And I just want to be able to say thank you, but I'll say it right here. Thank you.
Thank you
for listening, and share this. Yes. Tell your friends, tell your family if
Follow
you know
us
someone.
on Instagram. If you have any questions, shoot us a message on Instagram. Let us know. We'd love to take some questions and maybe talk about them on here and do.
Yeah. If there's anything
do a segment
specific,
on listener questions or anything like that.
If there's a specific thing that you want to hear us talk about, let us know. We're loving getting to do this with you guys and to hear that you guys relate with us in so many ways. Like, last week I talked about, telling the girls, like, ask the guy out. And I had a friend reach out to me today and she was like, you spoke to my soul.
Let's go.
I love that because it's like, I'm just doing this with y'all. And like, it just being relatable is beautiful. Also, I would like to just reach out right now and talk to the Alabama community that Wes called out last week and said, where are my Alabama people at? They have reached out and they're listening.
They're listening.
And
so shout out Roll Tide. Also, I got to say this. I think you cut it out of the last podcast, but I did give Alabama and Nate Oates a shout out for their Final Four appearance. Mm-hmm. We came up short. It was a good game.
I was going to say you're welcome for cutting it out, but if you're just going to drop the ball.
No, it's okay. Like we give and we take, first Final Four appearance in school history. So,
Amen.
Roll Tide. And we'll be back next year. So Nate Oates, keep coming, baby. Let's go.
And we will be back next week. So we love you guys and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Peace.